Welcome to the Steelers Realm Podcast. And now, here are the boys of Steelers Realm.
Good evening, Steelers Nation. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Realm. Here with your favorite Yinzers out here in the garage, talking Steelers, talking quarterbacks, talking draft. We just talking to talk is what we doing. And it's another night out with my man Freight Train joining me to talk a little offense tonight. And the hijacker here to screw up some kind of technical problems. As you can see, I am a dark dot tonight, boys and girls. So you're not going to get to see my beautiful face. You're not going to get to see me smile because I am in a location that is very, very secret, and I can't let you know. I'll let you know this, though. I have been playing with the firefighters of America all day. I want to say my heart goes out to you guys, man. Thank you for your service. It has been a pleasure today. Got to meet a lot of good people today, guys. And if you haven't thanked your firefighter lately, or your nurse, or your EMT, man, please go out there, shake their hand, give them a big hug and a thank you. Because without them, man, all hell could break loose at any given moment. Now, without further ado, let's get into this, man. Freight Train, where you been? Up and down the rails? What's going on, brother?
I've been up and down the rails, man. Finally got a little bit of time to graciously give you guys my presence for a night to talk offensive side of the Steelers and our biggest
bestow my broken heart. Bestow my broken heart. Hijacker, did you hear that? He has bestowed his presence upon us tonight.
I have, yeah.
We are lucky to have him tonight.
But it's good to be back. And, I agree with you. First responders are the backbone of America. And when you said hiatus, I thought maybe you were out doing mushrooms with Aaron Rodgers trying to convince him to sign.
That was last weekend.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
This weekend is ayahuasca.
Roger. Rogers.
Clarence. And here we are again, man. We are another week held captive and talk about the wheels falling off the bus. All right, let's just break into this, man. Are we really at the point now where TJ's about ready to lose his cool, his shit? I mean, all of a sudden he puts a little peace out sign on the social media world. And we've now come up with he's unhappy. He wants his contract. He wants out of Pittsburgh. He's tired of the Rodgers carousel. The whole Steelers franchise is disenchanted from Cam Hayward to TJ. Why can we not just stay out of the goddamn news, boys and girls? Excuse my French, and I apologize to the man up above for using his name and curse. But now I am fired up because I'm over this already. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that on social media. It's just a lot of hoopla, a lot of fake news out there, making stuff out of nothing.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily fake news or not. I think TJ is at that point of his career where winning means the most, I think. And I think he's starting to kind of feel like how Myles Garrett's feeling. If you're not going to win, at least pay me. And it's kind of a touchy situation because you can see kind of both sides of it. You know, nobody on this team deserves a ring more than Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. And it seems like we can't, as an organization, get out of our own way to put a product on the field to get those guys at least a little sniff of success in the playoffs to get to the ultimate game. And it's just it's a bad situation. And I'm wondering if the front office is kind of wondering if they want to not do what we had been doing years in the past and putting all our eggs in the basket on the defensive side of the ball and focus more on spending money on the offensive side. And we have a replacement for TJ if he was to go and Nick Herbig. Then again, it might not be the same production, but, you know, you have a viable option there to take over for the time being.
Look, I don't know if Nate Herbig is a viable option. I mean, I wouldn't call it necessarily a band-aid, but it'd definitely be a drop in production, because then after that, what are we going to all of a sudden see Jeremiah Moon become a all-pro backup outside edge rusher? I mean,
Hell no.
I mean, is that where we're at, or is Malik Harrison? You're going to try him from on the outside and see what he's going to be able to do. I mean, I think all of this, I agree with you on the point where, TJ doesn't want to end up like JJ. Let's face it. How many years did JJ spend in Houston, and he walked away with very little to show for it?
Personal accolades.
Personal accolades. And let's face it, neither of those two guys are personal accolade guys. That's not in their DNA. They're not all about them. They're lunchbox guys, so and I got to hand it to the Steelers and the Rooney family, man. I get it. They have been trying to bring success to this team, but it's fallen short. And it just goes to show you how important it is to have a franchise quarterback. And it also goes to show you, too, kudos to the Green Bay Packers, because you know what? They picked up Aaron Rodgers' replacement. They let him play underneath there. And you know what? They said, screw you, Aaron. We don't really care. You want to go out and do mushrooms, ayahuasca, whatever you want to do. We got your guy here. He's going to take your place, just like we brought you in to take Brett Favre's place. And you know what? Green Bay's not really missing a beat.
No.
Pittsburgh, we didn't want to upset Ben, Mr. Footballing. And Ben, I love you, but you know what? You're really not helping the cause right now with what you're doing out there. You're really not. What you could have helped the cause is maybe allow that quarterback to come in when you were still playing, instead of being an arrogant prick and set this franchise back 10 years. That's my honest opinion at this present time and moment.
Yeah, I could get that, TA. It's just, I don't really want to pay a large extension on an outside linebacker that's ultimately not what's going to win you a Super Bowl. It will help. It certainly helps having a franchise cornerstone like TJ Watt over there. But he's also not getting any younger. He seems to, the past couple of years, have some lingering health issues. Like, it's starting to kind of catch up to him a little bit. And we got to pay a quarterback. We got to get a quarterback, number one. And pass rushers, I mean, you can find pass rushers everywhere. Again, the productivity would probably not be the same because, as everybody knows, TJ Watt is a surefire Hall of Fame outside linebacker. But this organization has never shied away from not paying a star outside linebacker money and letting him walk. I mean, we've seen that with Joey Porter. We've seen that with James Harrison, letting him walk. Like, this wouldn't be the first time this organization has let go of a corner piece outside linebacker.
Yeah, you're definitely right. We haven't paid those guys in the past. Now, TJ, he's the best in the league at what he does, so maybe they'll change their tune. We'll have to see, because it'd be, $40 mil plus a year? That's a little rich, a little too much for. He's getting up there in age and the injury concerns you mentioned, but he's still the best at his position. So it's a tough decision. They'll probably pay him. I imagine he retires a Steeler, if I had to guess.
Well, and let's face it here too, guys, real quick, because we're supposed to be talking offense and not defense, but it's just the way that this whole NFL offseason and the circus around the Steelers go. But at the end of the day, how old are you, Freight Train?
34.
34 years old. Are you as tough and as stout as you were in your 30s?
Absolutely not.
The injuries start creeping up with age, and it is important to take care of your body. And I think the professionals today take care of their body way more so than what we've seen in the past. So I'm not really too concerned about TJ, because TJ always seems to do the right thing. TJ's problem is the abandoned recklessness, which is why we all love him, because he puts 150% out there on the field every Sunday. And that's what's starting to show. Same way with Cam. But at the end of the day, we've got to go ahead and we've got to get some offensive weapons. We have to score points. I'm not sure if we've got that in Arthur Smith right now to be able to do it, because now, of course, we've got the whole thing coming out where Arthur Smith's grip is too tight. It was too tight on Russ. It was too tight on Fields. Could it be too tight on Aaron? Hell, he ain't even got under center yet, and his grip's too tight.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole, and I'm not trying to get off topic, this is just a humble opinion of mine. I think the whole Justin Fields pickup was smoke and mirrors to get draft capital out of him. I don't think there was any seriousness of bringing Justin Fields back, I honestly believe.
Well, I think it was a win-win situation. Either he balls out and you get a.
We essentially traded a 6th-round pick for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I mean,
well, and you know what? On paper, the facts, that's what it boils down to right now. But I think deep down, I really think that they really wanted to bring Justin back. But however, I think they mishandled the whole situation. When we were in that 5-game skid, I think in the back of Justin's mind, he's like, look, you yanked me at 4-2. This guy is now on a 4-game skid. I've been there at practice following the motion, doing everything I'm supposed to do, practicing hard, and you couldn't see it to go ahead and bring me back in. Now, what makes me believe you're going to do that next year? Right. I think Tomlin misplayed that whole entire situation.
Yeah, it's kind of a crappy situation that a team that absolutely needs a quarterback wants to bargain bin wheel and deal these guys.
It is, and it's unfortunate. And speaking of bargain bin wheel and dealing, we brought back Calvin Anderson. Can I hear a yay, Calvin Anderson outside tackle?
Let's go.
All right.
Woo.
We're set, man.
We're set?
Yeah.
I mean, now the question is will he be able to last the year, or will we just go ahead and sign him and put him back on IR for the season?
Yeah. It could be. You always got to have a body on there.
You do.
He's there for profiling purposes on the IR.
For profiling. I'll tell you what. I think we could have left Calvin Anderson off and kept Spencer Anderson, and we'd just be fine. Because if Calvin Anderson can play half as well as Spencer Anderson, we might have something here. But I'm finding that one hard to believe. But when we look at it, so that's what we're here for tonight, folks. We're here to go ahead and break down the offense. And just like you wanted, I know you really want to talk about it, so we're going to dive right into it. The number one position on this team you're dying to talk about on the offense, and that's right, center position. The center position, guys, I think we found our next all-pro center for decades to come in Mr. Frazier. I mean, is everybody feeling pretty good with where that kid is, hoping that he doesn't have a sophomore slump, and that what we seen last year, he's going to be able to expand upon?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I mean, he plays with a high motor. He's good in the run game. He had some things to kind of grow on coming into his second year, but I mean, it was a far cry from what we had seen at the center position before he came here. At least he can actually snap it to the quarterback and doesn't roll it on the ground.
Wait, you remember Herbig snapping in preseason?
Yeah.
Flying.
Yeah.
But he's been great pass protection wise. I love him so far. He's going to be great. He's going to be a great franchise center for the next decade.
I mean, you gotta hand it to Con picking him up in the second round last year. I mean, even it's still hard to believe that he fell that far to us in the second round. So kudos to Con on that. I think Ryan McCollum as his backup has, at least as a young guy, has deserved to at least be on the team another year or two. So I think in the center of the field, on the offensive line in the trenches, I think we're looking good. So now let's move to the guards. All right. Go ahead, Freight Train. I'm going to let you break down the guards. You tell me what you think about the guards from last year, and are you happy where we are this year?
Well, let's see. You got Isaac Sayamalu, the Moan Samoan, who's getting up there in age a little bit. Had an injury issue last year. I think, there's still a little bit of solid play in there. Spencer Anderson, who we just talked about, filled in very, very admirably last year. I'm excited to see what maybe he can grow into. Then you have Mason McCormick over there on the right guard that I thought was just an absolute surprise. I mean, they plugged him in and he stayed the rest of the year at that right guard position, played pretty well. I feel pretty confident about him coming back and playing there. But in the draft, I'd like to maybe see them draft another guard, just because, the guard position, you need a little bit of depth there. And after those guys, we don't really have quality depth there at the guards position. You got the new guys, Lucius Smith and at Stephen Jones. There's not really a whole
you're
lot.
not feeling pretty comfortable on
It's
those
not,
guys.
There's not a lot of hoorah there from me with their. So maybe a later round guard, a power guard. We don't really need necessarily a pass protector. We need somebody that can come in and fill in on heavy run plays and mow some people down, getting to that second level.
Yep, would love to get another Mauler in the mix.
Well, I tell you what, another Mauler, because I tell you what, picking up McCormick in the fourth round last year, becoming the starter in week 4 and held on to that position for the remainder of the year, I think was big. I think it really, truly was big, especially because nobody expected Daniels to go down. Nobody expected it to turn out. I think the only thing on the guard side is I agree with you. I think right now we're kind of doing a little reaching. We're getting some camp bodies, seeing how things unfold. And you're right. We do need to upgrade that position in the upcoming draft here in a couple of weeks.
Especially,
but other than that, I
especially
like
with James Daniels leaving in free agency, you don't really have. And
how about
Nate
Herbert's
gone?
Left, nope.
And obviously Dan Moore's gone. He filled mainly in a tackle, but I think he did actually get in a game or two at guard, I think, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, you definitely need some better depth there. I like the idea of using our first pick as a trench guy, but not on this side of the ball.
Oh, it's got to be defense. Got to be defense, and we'll talk more about that next week, of course. So then, staying in the trenches. All right, here you go. Here's your chance, hijacker. Don't let us down. Let us hear what you're thinking on the offensive tackle side, because there's a little change going to happen this year. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because that is definitely going to be the camp story this year. So
we've got the story to watch, man. It's Broderick Jones. He's finally going back to his natural position. We're really happy about that. He played one game his rookie year where he looked pretty damn good. His best career game, arguably. And he's looking good. Hopefully he can boost up his pass protection as he moves back to his natural spot. You also got Troy Fatanu, who we saw in one start his rookie year, and he's coming back from that injury. He should be good as long as he's healthy. We need that knee to, hold together. Hoping it does. But in terms of swing tackle backup, we got the guy you just mentioned, Calvin Anderson. He's probably stepping in to be our swing tackle, which is probably not good news. And then we got a couple more guys, Dylan Cook, Doug Nestor as our backups behind him. And, yes, our depth on the tackle side does not look good, especially when you've got Troy Fatanu, who has a history of those injuries. So maybe a position we look to address later in the draft, add an offensive tackle or two. Can't hurt.
So what I'm hearing, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it's not necessarily a guard. Maybe it's not necessarily a tackle. Maybe it's another hybrid. Maybe we look for another Spencer Anderson who can play all the positions on the line. Because let's face it, in today's NFL, you need, as Tomlin likes to say, I need that Swift's Army knife.
That seems to be the case with a lot of guys coming out now. They've played multiple positions. There's not really that many guys right now that are designated to one spot anymore. A lot of them coming out are hybrids. But I like the idea of getting Broderick back to that left side. For one, he's got more experience than Fontenot over there. Fontenot's coming off his injury, was out the whole year. So he's technically basically a rookie again in year 2. So put him back over there at right tackle. Let Broderick win his aggressiveness. We know how Broderick likes to stick his nose into everything to get back on that left side to protect whoever's playing quarterback, because there's going to be a new guy. There's either going to be an old guy or there's going to be a rookie. So let's put the more experienced guy that knows how to play the position over there to left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would it be a surprise to anybody if the surprise is Broderick is our starting right tackle to start the season and Fontenot is the left?
Could see that.
To me, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
It's not about whether it makes sense. It's about whether or not who's going to play the position better. And that's been the knock on Broderick. I mean, he's been given that opportunity to play left tackle. He could not seize it over Dan Moore Jr. In his 3rd year. Is he ready to assume that position again?
Yeah,
I think so. Because I think he's up to the speed of the NFL. I mean, I thought he played a heck of a pretty good right tackle last year. I mean, I know there were some moments there where, he made some kind of boneheaded mistakes, but you're going to have that in a young player. But I think he'll learn from him this year, especially, he's going to be wanting a contract here soon. So he's got to kind of start putting it together if he wants that second contract. And like I said, with Fontenot being essentially a rookie again, I think it just makes the best sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep, with his experience, he's ideally the start left tackle, and I think he'll put it all together. Year 3, big year for him. He was kind of a raw prospect coming out, so got to give him time, wait for him to develop. Offensive tackles usually need a lot of time to develop. That's just how it is.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with anything that you guys said. One thing I said about Broderick last year that I liked is Broderick is always by the action, and he seems like he has a pretty cool head about him. Look how many times he brought George back down off the cliff, always there to protect his teammates. That's the guy I want in battle because he's the guy who has your back. So I'm looking for a big leap in him moving forward from next year. And speaking of big leaps moving forward, guys, is this the year that we're going to actually utilize our tight ends, or are we just stacking this team to be able to throw more bodies in the trenches to block? And what I mean by that is this Darnell Washington's breakout year. I'm tired of having a guy 6'7" on the field that we get down in the end zone. He could press somebody out. Hell, you could damn alley-oop him the damn ball, let him jump up and grab it, and we fail to utilize him, man.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And just as well as I do that, I wasn't a Darnell Washington fan from the beginning, but he definitely started growing on me. And he's got that body type of a tight end, a lot like he reminds me of somebody like Antonio Gates. Great blocking tight end, but man, if you could get him into the open field, anything can happen. It takes 3 guys to bring him down. Antonio Gates, probably one of the best red zone tight ends in the history of the National Football League. We could have that in Darnell Washington if we just utilized him. And like I said, I agree with you. I think this could be the year that they need to put it together for him.
Yep, I think he should, naturally be a good red zone threat just because of how big he is. Like he's impossible to tackle, like you said. Get him in the open field, and nobody's bringing him down.
Well, and not only that, but here's the other thing that I'd like to see happen. I'd like to see Connor line up behind him in that H-back position on more pass plays and send them both out and see what kind of coverage those two draw, because we're not using Connor Hayward's talents either. Since we've gotten Arthur Smith, all of a sudden Connor Hayward does not exist.
Yeah, I don't even know if
this
he's going to
team.
be on the team after training camp.
You know what? It's a very good possibility. They could very well let him go or hold on to him for one more year, hoping that this is Cam's last year, and they both ride out into the sunset together. But I still believe that there's a spot on this team for Connor. I just hope that they figure out how to use him because we've seen it in the past. The guy catches pretty much everything
Yeah,
you
you know
throw
what
his
makes me
way.
feel that he's not going to be on this team? The simple fact that we threw a contract at Kyle Juszczyk. That makes me feel like this team doesn't believe in Connor Hayward to be able to play that fullback position, nor do they have confidence in him. And I don't know why, because we've seen him make pretty big catches as a tight end out of the slot. So it's a matter of, I don't think they trust him as a fullback because they must not feel like he's a good enough blocker. And they just don't know how to utilize him as a tight end either. There's not enough shares of the football to get Connor Hayward involved.
All right. If that's the case, so I got to throw this out there. Nothing against Cordell Patterson. All right. Cordell in his day was good, but now he's just an old sloppy, has been kick returner, punt returner / running back. He had one good game last year. All right. You're telling me that they can find a position for him, or how about Michael Pruitt, which nobody understands why this guy is even on the team, except for the fact that it's an Arthur Smith pick and we've got to give him some kind of concessions. Okay, I get that. But then you've got a Donald Parham Jr. I mean, and you're telling me you cannot figure out how to use the talents of Connor, then I have to question the coaching staff again. Do we have the right OC?
I think Cardale might be a draft day trade.
Who the hell is going to pick him up?
Oh,
Somebody in the UFL,
you could easily get a
Stallions?
6th-round pick for him.
I hope so.
I would take it in a heartbeat.
Why would you? Wait a second. Why would you give a 6th-round pick for a 12-year veteran when you know damn well after June his ass will be out on the streets and you can pick him up for free?
Why they don't know that, but I mean, before he came to Pittsburgh,
we don't know what that he's a 12-year-old
that he's going to be a cut
athlete.
I think he's more tradable because he does have a track record. Before he came to Pittsburgh, he had some solid years in Atlanta. He played very well in Atlanta. I don't think this
he was
system.
He was on the downside, man.
I think there's still some value to some team out there for him for a 6th-round pick.
I think that. Wait a second. Did you take my place and go with Rogers on the Ohio-Alaska trip? I'm just asking, man, because I could use some time freed up this weekend. If that's the case, brother, I'm gonna let you have this trip.
Yep. Everybody was gonna know when I went. There would be signs, and now they're showing their face.
Yeah, where do you think Freight Chain's been the last few weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of signs, the biggest sign that is seeming to plague us at this time is the wide receiver, guys. Where are we at with wide receiver? I mean, we went out, we picked up DK Metcalf. Everybody's happy. Everybody thinks we're going to pair him with George Pickens. Me personally, I think George is on his way out the door, and we're going to have a 2nd-round pick in this upcoming draft. And we're putting a lot of stake in Roman Wilson and the fact that we're hoping that there's still a top-notch wide receiver available for us in the 2nd round. That's my honest opinion.
Well, I think they'll keep Pickens because they saw what happened when their one wide receiver went down last year. They'd like to have 2 guys this year and, see what they can get from Calvin and Roman. He's coming back this year. Also got some other guys, Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek, some guys who are good blockers, good after the catch, good with the ball in their hands. Let's see. Then some def guys, Brendan Johnson, Lance McCutcheon. Yep.
See, I think the other way around.
Yep.
I'm the one that's rolling with George for this season because I think we're going to get more value of play out of him than if we trade him for a second-round pick, because this team does not like to play rookie wide receivers whatsoever. They make them sit. So why not maximize the talent of both DK and George on the field at the same time? And if you walk away from him after next year, then so be it. But he adds too much value to this offense along as a weapon with DK Metcalf. And if we use the tight ends, I'm willing to roll with it and see what happens.
So you're willing to have Connor Hayward as our quarterback as he beats out Mason Rudolph
the
in
boss,
camp?
Chris Boswell. Chris Boswell's playing.
Chris Boswell's playing quarterback. All right. Chris is playing. You know what? I might be able to stand.
You have to be able to put points up to win in this league now. If you get rid of George, you're minimizing that. You're minimizing a playmaker.
You are minimizing a playmaker, and I think only time is going to tell. And it's basically on Rodgers. I mean, let's face it, that is the elephant in the room right now. What is Rodgers going to do? Me personally, again, I've said it, I'd rather see us go ahead and ride with Mason Rudolph until 2026. That doesn't bode well for Cam. It doesn't bode well for TJ. It doesn't bode well for the team. But at the end of the day, why are we going to be held hostage? And then why are we going to keep a disgruntled wide receiver on this team? Because we think he was bad last year. Can you imagine what's going to happen if Rodgers does show up? The arguments that are going to happen between him and George Pickens. Dude, this is going to be worse than AB ripping his shirt off at the end of the Tampa Bay game and walking off the field forever.
That was funny. I remember that.
But, I don't know. I mean, can you really call him disgruntled, though? I haven't heard him say anything this offseason for him to be considered a disgruntled.
Because nobody thinks he talks. Look, he doesn't really talk. Yes. No. You've seen the play.
He's just not good.
Maybe.
So you're saying Marshawn Lynch was disgruntled? He didn't talk to the media very well either.
Yeah, but at least he showed up to ball on the weekend.
George balls.
George does ball. Look, he is a talent. You know what? I can't. I personally like the kid. I just need to see some maturity out of him. To me, I would rather keep George for a long, long time and retrade DK because I really think he's that kind of
DK
talent.
Now, not with that contract.
No, he's here to stay. Matter of fact, we might have to sell a few more seat licenses out in the parking lot.
Yeah. They're going to be putting seating up top the scoreboard. You're going to be seating up the rotundas now. You can't walk in those anymore. They're going to be seats.
They're going to be seats, but I think a lot of it. I just want to see the maturity level. I need to see that
the thing
come
with George TA is it all boils down to you got to have a quarterback. Cincinnati, Higgins and Chase. There's no animosity between those two because guess what? They have a quarterback that can get the ball to them and they can make plays. We don't have that. And George was out there trying to do it, by himself because I'm sorry, but I'm done with the Calvin Austin experiment. It has not worked. Who was the second best wide receiver on the team? Van Jefferson? Come on, man. Come on.
Negatory. Actually, it was Ben Skowronek. Skowronek.
So I think if you get somebody that can get the ball to him and make plays downfield and put points up and win games, all this would go away.
Well, we are hoping that that is the Aaron Rodgers. Look, I'd love to be sitting here, almost 8 months from now, talking about how Ayahuasca boy, through all of his trials and tribulations, has us knocking on the door of the AFC Championship game, and how we're all one big happy family, and this whole plan has worked out somehow magically, mystically in Alice in Wonderland, because somebody took the pill to make them bigger, someone took the pill to make them smaller, someone took the pill to make them yellow, and the other one took it to make them orange. I'm happy for all that stuff. Man, I'm having a hard time believing that we're in control of anything at this point in time. That's my
No,
theory.
we're just holding our head above water.
Right. We're holding our head
We're
above
not good
water.
and we're not
And
bad.
speaking of right. So speaking of holding our head above water, I think it's safe to say that in this upcoming draft, I'm hoping with all the talks right now with prime time 2 now falling to 21. Now you've got to ask yourself, is the guy really prime time 22 or 21? If he's fallen to 21, he was supposed to be the second pick, and all of a sudden Dart's leaped ahead of him. I really don't think we need to pick up Shador in the first round. I think we stick to our guns and go with the trenches. However, we do need to get a quarterback because, as we know, Mason's only as good as he is. Skylar's there. But what's even more concerning right now is the running back room. Is anybody happy with this except
Absolutely
for Jalen
not.
Warren?
Absolutely not. This is bad.
Wait a second. You're telling me you don't like Evan Hall, second year out of Northwestern?
Let's go.
Tearing up the
No.
greens.
Jonathan Ward.
No. I'm not okay with Kenneth Gainwell being our backup running back.
Hey, look, between the two of them, they almost
Hey, man,
6 foot.
Gainwell was pretty good at holding Saquon's water bottle for him last year.
Yeah. No.
He did a fine job.
I definitely think that, running back is definitely on the priority list in this draft. But the good thing for us is this running back class is pretty stout. I think you can get some good value there in the third rounds. I mean, you got the guys listed on here. I don't really want to draft Omarion Hampton with our first pick, but he's going to be gone by the time we get into that third round. But, you're going to have the 2 Ohio State boys sitting there. They're not listed on here.
In the third round, dude, I don't know.
Yeah,
if
the
they
reason
make
why
it out of the
Henderson,
second round.
I don't think Henderson will, but I do think that Judkins will still be there.
I hope so.
Judkins, I can see Judkins going to the third. I just don't know if he's going to fall that far in the third.
I mean, you got Scadaboo, but again, he's 5'10", small guy.
That's why he's falling to the third round.
Yeah, and this Dylan Simpson out of Tennessee, 5'8". We need somebody like Judkins, who's a little bit of a power back, but can also make plays in the passing game as well. We saw that, especially me and TA. We watch Ohio State every single week. You've seen both those guys making plays all over the offense. So I'd like, if one of those two guys is there in the third round, I think they're definitely worth a flyer.
Another guy who might be a flyer if he falls that far is Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. I think that he's got some upside to him, especially, between the guards. He's definitely got the physicality to run it up the middle. He's not going to break it to the outside, not often anyways, not with a lot of help, maybe a little tush push behind him. But he damn sure has the power to go ahead and make it up to the front. But Scadaboo, I just like the kid's toughness, man. The kid is tough. And if worse comes to worse, you got Ollie Gordon. He came in for a visit. He's a little bit of a brawler. But I think if we can't pick up a Judkins or even the kid out of SMU, Brashard Smith, I think that we're stuck with the short little scat back running backs.
See, and that's why I felt like we got Kenneth Gainwell because he is kind of that scat back. He's that third down passing play running back. We don't need two of those because Jalen Warren can play that role as well.
No,
you know what I mean, as our starter.
Absolutely, but I think that's why they went ahead and picked up Gainwell too, because we did lose Warren, and again, that goes to show the short-sightedness. We couldn't even put Connor in that position to take it. You follow me? But there's the other kid I almost forgot about, man, out of Miami, Martinez. He's a little bit of a big bruiser. He just doesn't have the explosiveness, but again, up the middle, he's built like a fullback, man. The kid is stout. It's just whether or not he can hit that hole quick enough in the NFL.
Yeah.
And there is a problem we have with our running backs, except for Jalen. We have to be able to hit a hole.
Right.
Jalen can hit a hole. If we're not going to hit a hole with this offensive line until they continue to mature as a young group, we're going to have problems. You know what I mean? Because these guys aren't going to be holding that hole open. What's currently needed. But anyways, it sounds to me like, guys, we have a lot of homework to do between now and the draft. And next week, we're going to break it down, guys. We're going to have a little bit of a mock draft. So I hope everybody tunes in. Freight Train, you're going to be able to join us.
See. Next Thursday, I will be in Buffalo. So
nice.
We'll have to see. I don't know. It depends what time I can get in. But yeah, because we got to break down these quarterbacks in this draft.
Well, we got to break down
because there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. We're taking a quarterback at some point of this draft, and I wouldn't even be opposed to maybe taking two of them.
If they're later in the draft,
or I mean one higher, maybe one later.
I do not
depending on how each falls.
All I want to say is I don't want to go ahead and repeat history and feel pressured into taking another Kenny Pickett. We did that once. That experiment failed. Let's learn from history. If we're going to take a quarterback, we got to at least wait till the third round.
And not to break it down too much, but a lot of these quarterbacks that are coming out have the same kind of mold and moxie of a quarterback that we just re-signed. They're a lot like Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, let's go.
They're pocket passers, and that's not what Tomlin wants. He wants the guy from Alabama. He wants a running quarterback. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
And we're going to hope to teach him how to pass, just like Baltimore finally taught Lamar how to pass after 7 seasons?
7 years. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Right. We all got time to wait for that to mature and happen, right?
Hey, here's an idea.
Yeah, no.
DA, what do you think about this? We need a quarterback. The Browns are going to need a running back. Why don't we trade Cardale for Deshaun Watson?
Genius.
Oh, while we're at it, we might as well just go ahead and trade Boz for Tucker. That way we can just go ahead and corner the massage parlors.
Oil them up.
Oil them up.
Oh,
unbelievable.
It's a great time to be alive and to be a Steelers fan.
Well, kind of feels like the 80s all over again.
Yep. Not that I would know anything about the 80s.
I hate to say it. No. All right. Well, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining in. We look forward to talking to you next week as we get ready for the only mock draft that matters, ours. Freight Train, Hijacker. Adios, amigos.
See ya.
All right. Adios. Adios, Steelers Nation.
Yep. Good night. Careful in the hot tub.
Check back next week into the Steelers realm.